A researcher named Rain develops an innovative substance that gave rise to the virtual universe within people's minds. However, quickly, the government shows interest and seeks to take control of this new technology. Stay tuned as there will be spoilers ahead. Prepare your snack, get comfortable, and let's dive into this incredible journey. Popcorn Session Channel presents Other Life. We begin with Rain trying to persuade her brother Jared to continue swimming. Upon sensing his reluctance, Rain decides to enter the water alone, intending to provoke Jared's concern and encourage him to join her. However, after a few minutes, Jared hits his head on a rock and ends up drowning. Years pass and we witness Rain still carrying a deep sense of guilt, as her brother suffered severe consequences and remains in a coma. Shortly after the tragic incident, Rain dedicates herself intensely to her studies, resulting in the creation of an innovative technology called Other Life. This technology consists of a black eye drop and a kind of headpiece controlled by computer software. These devices allow a person to experience a day in a highly realistic virtual scenario, resembling a scaled-down version of The Matrix. Based on this idea, Rain establishes a multi-million-dollar company with her partner, Sam. However, Rain's father, also a scientist, opposes his daughter's creation. He repeatedly warns that prolonged exposure to the eye drop can lead to seizures and even brain death. These warnings prompt Rain to be summoned for a meeting with regulators from the Substance Control Agency. Faced with the accusations, Rain argues that the abuse of any harmful substance to the body is problematic. Additionally, she emphasizes that the goal of Other Life is to create the memory of a perfect day, where people can enjoy without facing adversities, aiming to prevent tragedies like the one that happened to her brother from recurring in the lives of others. With this, the agency approves Other Life to be sold to the general public. After enjoying the world of Other Life, Rain decides to proceed with the eye drop tests. The intriguing aspect is that she uses her own body as the subject of experimentation. Initially, everything seems to be under control within the virtual environment. However, over time, the trees and mountains start glitching, and she finds herself unable to return to the real world. At this moment, Brian, an employee, panics and resorts to a special injection to force Rain to wake up. Fortunately, the injection is not needed as she awakens on her own and realizes that 6 days have passed in the virtual world. Rain tries to warn about a serious problem in the software, but her partner, also named Rain, doesn't take it seriously, attributing the issue to a simple bug that can be fixed with a few lines of code. Next, Rain and her partner explain the functioning of Other Life to some investors. They reveal that they have established a connection between the human brain and computers through nanotechnology. They highlight the social benefits of Other Life, arguing that a person can study a subject that would take years in just a few minutes, due to the different perception of time in Other Life compared to the real world. Despite Rain insisting on the need for more tests to fix the bugs, her partner rejects the idea, claiming that they can't afford to waste more time and that they will launch Other Life the following week. Following this incident, Rain's boyfriend, named Denai, reveals that they had planned to have lunch together. However, she explains that she forgot due to the intense workload. Thus, Denai is left standing there, watching her walk away as night falls. At night, Rain continues to work with Baryon and manages to fix the bug related to the memory of the snow-covered mountain. We learn that Rangel conducted 482 tests using Other Life, and Rain is putting in significant efforts because she aims to use Other Life to create a memory where her brother wakes up from the coma, imagining a scenario where he didn't drown. A few days later, she returns to the hospital and tests her brother again. This time, Jared reacts, with his eyes blinking, providing hope to Rain. However, the doctor arrives at that exact moment and she hides the equipment to prevent him from seeing. Rain shares the news with the doctor, mentioning the movement in her brother's eyes. The doctor explains that it's just a false alarm and doesn't mean Jared is waking up from the coma. The next day, Rain receives an email from her father, Robert, informing her that he plans to disconnect Jerry's life support. Disagreeing with the decision, Rain goes to the university where her father works. In the conversation with her father, Robert, and revealing the signs of response in Jared's eyes, Michael, Rain is confronted with her father's skeptical view of other life. He argues that other life is a substance like any other, and that the human mind is too complex to be reprogrammed by binary codes. Emotionally shaken, Rain begins to cry and pleads with her father not to disconnect the life support. However, Robert explains that he has the right to do so. Back at the company, Jerry discovers that Rain was conducting various secret tests as their infrastructure was operating beyond necessity. She refuses to reveal the nature of these tests, claiming it's a personal matter. Later, her partner reveals his intention to sell licenses for other life to the government for use in the prison system. The proposal is to allow convicts to serve a 10-year sentence in just 10 minutes, saving considerably for the government, which wouldn't have to bear the costs of prisons and inmate maintenance. Upset with this idea, Rain expresses her anger, arguing that their intention is to expand people's minds, not imprison them. Amidst the argument, her partner raises his voice, hurling insults at Rain, frightening the other employees present. Later, Rain meets with Danny and decides to share with him the experience of using other life. The young man starts skiing on that virtual mountain and is impressed by the level of realism provided by this technology. The simulation comes to an end, and Danny returns to the real world. However, sneakily, he takes an eye drop capsule from Rain's bag without her noticing. Later, Danny uses the eye drop again, revealing that he became addicted. However, unexpectedly, he starts having a seizure, leaving Rain desperate, and she calls an ambulance. After the incident, we find out that Danny passed away, and Rain is taken to the police station. San becomes extremely angry upon learning of the incident, as they had conducted numerous tests on humans without any deaths before. With no choice, Rain is forced to confess that the eye drop Danny used was a modified version, not the same they used to use. She explained that she was testing new compositions in the hope of waking Jared up from the coma. Rain's lawyer arrives at the police station and informs her that she will have to serve a sentence of 10 to 15 years for unauthorized human testing, fraud, and negligence. However, San uses his influence to negotiate a deal, and Rain agrees to serve only 1 year of the initially proposed 15. However, Rain's sentence will be served in other life, where she will serve as a test subject for the government to assess the results of a simulated prison. Rain rejects the deal proposed by San, who tries to convince her by explaining that the government will cover up the case to avoid the closure of their company. He also emphasizes that if 1 minute passes in real life, it will equate to 1 year within the simulation. Arriving at the company, Rain prepares to begin serving her sentence. Byron explains that this will be the longest simulation ever conducted, and Rain requests to receive an injection in her skull to wake her up in case the simulation extends beyond the scheduled time. Eye drops are administered to Rain, and she awakens in a cell with a screen counting the days elapsed. Upon realizing that she will have to spend 365 days there, she starts to cry. While exploring the cell, she finds a pantry with water, canned goods, and even some hygiene products, such as shampoo and toothpaste. Rain decides to pass the time by exercising to stay distracted, even though the exercises don't change her real body in the outside world. Then Rain eats a can of tuna she found in the pantry and starts making some notes on a tablet. However, suddenly, she freaks out of nowhere and throws the tablet away, stating that it's a waste of time to take notes, since no one besides her will read them. The next day, the counter on the screen is updated, and Rain bangs her head against the wall a few times, remembering the last moments with her ex-boyfriend. Then she recalls the scene of her brother floating on the beach, ending up hurting her fingers. Over the following days, it becomes evident that Rain's mental health is deteriorating. She reaches the point of talking to herself and uttering nonsensical things. However, day 365 finally arrives, marking the end of the sentence she needed to serve in the simulation. Then, Rain stands there, eagerly waiting for the moment when she will wake up in the real world. Surprisingly, the counter on the screen resets and goes back to day 1. Rain starts screaming in desperation and breaks the screen as well as some parts of the cell, believing there's a problem in the software code. However, this situation suggests a possible trap.
After the incident, she looks for something to eat in the pantry and notices a small door inside. Rain enters the pantry, squeezes through the small door, and realizes she has been inside a warehouse the whole time. She begins an investigation in the warehouse and finds a storage room with water bottles and canned goods, the same one she consumed, as if someone had been removing them from there and placing them in the pantry through the small door. Additionally, Rain discovers a room with monitors displaying images from various security cameras. She realizes that the guards are aware of her escape and decides to flee, finding keys on the table. Rain reaches a car and uses the keys to escape from the location. Upon arriving in a bustling city, she questions whether the people there are real or just illusions created for this world. Back at her company, Rain is surprised to see the place empty, as if the headquarters had changed locations. She then enters a clothing store, steals some items to change out of the prison uniform she still wore. Upon leaving, she notices Sand being portrayed as a successful businessman on the cover of a magazine. Next, Rain goes to a police station, where an officer reviews her criminal record and informs her that her record is clean. However, he points out that according to the record, Rain lived in Italy during the past year. Rain disputes this, stating that it's a lie and that she was actually imprisoned in an isolated place in America inside a box. The officer requests to see the location, and she leads him there. Surprisingly, the cell is no longer in place, causing the officer to question Rain's mental sanity and leaving her alone. Back at the building where she lived, the doorman informs her that someone else has rented her apartment, putting her belongings in storage. When attempting to access the storage, the attendant prevents her entry, likely demanding some fee. Suddenly, Sand arrives at the location, claiming to be there to help her. However, Rain doesn't believe him, refuses to open the door, and escapes through another entrance of the building. She runs to the apartment of her former colleague and friend, Cass. The two start talking, and Cass reveals that everyone thought Rain had retired to enjoy life, but Rain denies it and recounts that she was imprisoned due to Danny's death. However, Cass reveals that Danny is alive and calls him to see Rain. Upon meeting, they embrace, and Danny reveals that he began drowning in an imaginary world after using the eye drops. He explains that he woke up in a hospital, tried to contact Rain multiple times, but believed she didn't want to see him anymore. Then, Rain discovers that the launch of Other Life was a huge success, being used in education, the military, and even in the adult entertainment industry. She becomes angered to learn that Sand plans to create an almost perpetual prison in Other Life, keeping convicts locked up for centuries. Despite the urge to go after Sand, Danny and Cass advise her not to, offering financial support while she decides to file a lawsuit against him. However, Rain clarifies that she is not acting for money but for the sake of her brother Jerry. Rain decides to go to the new headquarters of Other Life, using Cass's badge to enter. There, she encounters Barian, who rushes to call the security. However, Danny immobilizes him, allowing Rain to grab the hard drive with files from her old research and punch Barian before leaving. Back at Cass's apartment, they come across two men forcibly taking Cass away. Surprisingly, Rain and Danny choose to hide instead of helping their friend, even though she had lent Rain the badge to enter the Other Life building. Next, Rain and Danny go to her father's vacation home, located in a secluded area in the forest. Rain turns on the computer and spends the entire night working on a new biotechnological development. In the morning, Robert arrives at the house, and Danny greets him, expressing admiration for his work to please his father-in-law. Robert embraces his daughter and confesses to being scared by her disappearance. Rain explains all the events, including Danny's use of the eye drops to simulate Jared's drowning in the water. She reveals that she was studying this memory in the hope of waking her brother from a coma. Rain produces a new eye drop using a mini laboratory in the house and then drives to the hospital. Interestingly, in the hospital scene, there are no staff or patients present, as if the movie wanted to portray the location as empty to allow Rain to use the eye drops on her brother without interference. Rain applies a drop of the eye drops to Jared's eye and activates the memory of the day of the accident. This time, Jared doesn't hesitate and surfaces from the water. He wakes up from the coma, bringing tears of joy to Rain's eyes. However, unexpectedly, her brother starts convulsing and suffering intensely. She decides to turn off the machines to spare Jared, allowing him to rest in peace. After that, Rain begins to experience various confusing memories of Barian and other people trying to bring her back to the real world, revealing that she was inside Other Life all this time, serving her sentence for Danny's death. However, Byron injects something into her skull, causing her to wake up and panic. After calming down, she apologizes for assaulting him and expresses the desire to retire, suggesting that Sand takes over the company. Rain realizes that the real Danny had indeed died and attends his cremation ceremony. However, a few days later, Sand discovers that Rain was playing a virtual game instead of remaining locked in the cell. He claims it happened due to a bug and asks her to re-enter the simulation and help him develop an open world. Rain refuses, and Sand forces her to use the eye drops, making her wake up again. She manipulates space and time within the memory to wake up and exit. Rain rises and attacks Sand, pouring the eye drops into his eyes. As a result, Sand spends 365 days in the cell, while Rain wakes up using the injection. Finally, Robert and Rain decide to turn off the machines for the real Jerry, and the movie ends with her gazing at the sea on the same beach where her brother drowned.